You did it, babes.
I hope I did it. Oh yeah, I did do it. Cool beans, cool beans. All right. Hello, everybody. What's up? It's 8 p.m. and we have, it's our first live special guest.
It's true.
It's so exciting. His name is Dr. Barry. He has so many accolades. 1, he's the man. 2, he's that man. And 3, he's that doctor man. He is a fantastic author. He does some wonderful YouTube videos dealing with health from all kinds, but mostly keto, carnivore, healthy information about
Family physician.
Family physician. We watched that thing about skin tags.
20 plus years of clinical experience.
And he wrote an awesome book, and one of my favorite parts of the book is him trying to say not he the whole time. Did you read that part of the book? He was like, I don't know if I should say he or she. He was going to say Z. He was ahead of the curve. He was ahead of the pronoun curve. But he ended up saying he, but it's not his fault. Anyway.
Well, I did make a promise. The very next book I write, it's going to be her, she the whole way. No he's or hims to be found.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to alternate from book to book.
That's all we ask for.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Barry. It's fantastic. And I'll let you know Raven has been watching you, listening to you, reading you for months now. So it's very, very cool to get to actually look at you and ask you questions. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a great honor. But I have a question.
Yes.
Am I really the first, or are you just saying
No,
that?
you're the first person that we've had on live on this YouTube channel ever.
I accept that. I accept that.
Yay, you are making history with us right now.
All right, I love it.
But
Let's
he's
do it.
actually making history in so many other ways as well. He sent me a link of a show that he filmed in Puerto Rico. Am I right? It's Puerto Rico, right?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. My bad.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
called Reversed. And I think it's absolutely amazing. It's the second season of Reversed, but you are on this season. Please tell us what the show is about.
So this show is about reversing type 2 diabetes with a ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. And the average type 2 diabetic, as you may know, they have no idea that they can completely and totally reverse their type 2 diabetes and not have type 2 diabetes anymore. And when they hear that, can you imagine the hope that would fill your heart when you're like, wait, what? I can get rid of my type 2 diabetes? Yes, you can. And so we flew everybody to Costa Rica because of the background, right? We wanted to get that for the drone shots. I was not in charge of this. We had a great producer. His name's Charles Maddox. He is excellent at what he does. And this is the second season. I was the house doctor. We also had Dr. Jason Fung talk about intermittent fasting. We had Maria Emmerich cooking all the food. And we had 4 people who had anywhere from mild to very severe type 2 diabetes. And we taught them all about a ketogenic way of eating and intermittent fasting during these 7 beautiful days in Costa Rica.
Wow.
That is amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. The people were amazing. The people in Costa Rica are amazing, but the 4 house guests who were suffering from some degree of type 2 diabetes were just hungry for knowledge because we had given them that hope. They now knew, oh, this is reversible. Wait a minute, what? Okay, so now, smart man, tell me what I need to do to reverse this. And we're like, okay, here you go, step 1. And so Maria Emmerich was cooking this delicious, nutrient-dense keto food. And then while we sat around and we were eating it all, I would teach them how to do this way of living and way of eating. And by the end of the 7 days, we have one lady who had very severe type 2 diabetes. She had an insulin pump with lots of insulin going constantly to keep her blood sugar down. By the end of the week, we had to reduce her insulin pump by 70% just in 7 days. And one of the other house guests who also had high blood pressure was on 2 or 3 blood pressure medications. We had already had to stop one of his blood pressure medications because his blood pressure had already gotten so much better just in the 7 days. And so I think you can quickly see the power.
You can definitely see the power.
This.
I mean, I did not have type 2 diabetes, but I was definitely pre-diabetic, and watching the show.
Had a touch of sugar. You had a touch of sugar.
Oh, I had a whole bunch of sugar. I had a whole touch of sugar.
Yeah. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just and a lot of people in the black community, they call it a touch of sugar. Oh, I got a touch of sugar. Doctor says no big deal. That is bull. Can I say the S
You
word
can
on
say
your
bullshit.
channel? I'm not sure. It's bullshit. Okay, if you have any degree of prediabetes, you are doing permanent damage to every organ in your body. It is not okay for you to have prediabetes. And also, you need to know you can reverse that with keto and intermittent fasting.
It's true,
as
Dr.
well.
Barry. I reversed it. I had an A1C of a 6.7, a 6.1, somewhere in there. I started my ketogenic diet. I started intermittent fasting, and I'm now a 5.4, almost a 5.2. And I feel so much better. My swelling has gone down. There are people in my family now that I am trying my best to get on this mission as well. And I have a few questions, right? So let's talk about it. Humans are an interesting species because we say, oh, we can fix it. Cool beans. I'm going to dabble a little here, but I can have, an apple here, or I can have a little biscuit there. How important is it to stick to the keto diet? How important is it to stick to the keto diet? How difficult is the keto diet? And are we making it more complicated than we need to?
Yes, we're human beings. We make everything more complicated than it needs to be. That's what we do by definition, right? But if done properly, a ketogenic way of eating is very easy. It's very delicious. It's very nutrient dense. Lots of people taking tons of supplements when they start a well-formulated ketogenic diet. They don't need nearly as many supplements because all the foods on a ketogenic diet are very nutrient dense, right? And so that's just one of the many benefits. But it all comes down to this. Do you want the prediabetes to come back, or would you rather it not? And so just like an alcoholic, if they've been to rehab and they're like, yeah, but can't I just have a little beer every now and then? What would you tell an alcoholic? No, dummy. You're an alcoholic. You know. Why are you even saying those words out loud? Same goes for people who were previously carbohydrate addicts. And
Yes.
you may have been one, Raven. I don't know. But when you were, yeah. So when Raven was converting to keto, Miranda, did she have carb withdrawals? Was she a little bit of a bee for a few days there as she was converting? Because it's very common for carb addicts to have a few days.
Honestly, she wasn't, because I think the process in which we transferred, and I say we because I started cooking for her. And I was not thinking keto diet initially, but I was making augmentations to the way that she was eating with the nutritional education that I had. And so kind of, shifting things subtly here and there. So by the time she started to fully go keto, she was almost in this like perfect place to jump all the way in, because I had, if she was having a carbohydrate while I was cooking for her, it was only a half of a sweet potato. And I had taken out all of the really bad sugary things and was implementing healthier fats and more fat and better proteins and things of that nature. So it seemed like the transition was really easy. The most beast-like Raven has ever become is when she's like 4 days into a fast and she's just forgotten to have her salt that day, and she's just angry and mad and doesn't understand what's happening in the world. And I'm like, you're not doing something right.
Yeah. Raven's like, why does the whole world
Oh, literally,
suck? And you're
verbatim.
Like,
she's like, the world is the worst place ever. I'm like, go have some salt.
Perfect. This is Miranda for the win right there.
I have a question for you, Dr. Barry. So you wrote a book called Lies Your Doctor Told You. And although I have not read this book, the title in and of itself is kind of like a punch in the face. And I'm curious to know, even in terms of what I know now about the standard American diet and things that I've experienced in my own
The lie of the
journey.
cholesterol.
Yeah, like, the information seems to constantly be shifting and da-da-da-da-da. But like you were saying earlier, where people could reverse their type 2 diabetes with simple nutritional changes, maybe implementing some more movement into their diet, into their routines, and they're healthier. And obviously those things are not a prescription, it's not a medication. Why do you think doctors jump to their, prescription pads, and why do you think doctors have continued to tell us to eat the food pyramid and things like that are continuing to make people sick or keep people ill?
Let me be clear. Let me be clear. I don't think doctors mean any harm to their patients. I think they 100% are trying to do good. But there's this law of human nature that if the only tool that you have is a hammer, then everything in the world looks like a nail, doesn't it? And so if a doctor, if their only tool that they really know how to use is a prescription pad, that's the tool they're going to use. And I was like that the first few years of my medical practice until I became morbidly obese and pre-diabetic and miserable myself, and then use keto to fix that. I would write you a prescription. I'd be like, Raven, it's easy, honey. You're just laying on the couch eating Cheetos. You need to get up. You need to move more, eat less, and take these 3 pills. Here's a prescription. Have a nice day. I'll see you in 3 months. And you would go and you'd be like, okay, I think you just called me fat, but I'm not sure what just happened there. And then you would go and try to do what I told you, and that would fail, and you would come back and you would gain 5 more pounds, and your A1C went up another 0.2 of a point. And Raven, I told you to get off the couch and stop eating the ding-dongs. Remember? You need to work on that. Here's another pill. I'll see you in 3 months. Because that's the only thing I had. I didn't have this other knowledge that I now have that I'm able to share with people, is that, no, actually, forget everything I said before. That was all stupidity. I must have fell and hit my head. No, I was just a regular doctor. I didn't know about nutrition. I didn't know the power of nutrition. And so now, more and more doctors are waking up to keto. There are a lot of doctors out there that now secretly will tell their patients, yeah, I'm doing keto. I've lost 40 pounds. And you can do it too, but don't tell anybody I told you, right? Because they don't want to get yelled at by the powers that be. But yeah, keto's the way. If you have high blood pressure, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have pre-diabetes or a touch of sugar, if you have fatty liver disease, if you have, the list, it just goes on and on. If you have these chronic medical conditions that your doctor said, oh, you're never going to get rid of these, you just got to take medicine, you can probably improve them, at least to some degree, with a ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting.
For sure, for sure. One of the things we watched your video on, what was the vitamin that you were?
Oh no, it's an amino acid, glycine.
Yeah.
So I recently started taking glutathione and glycine, and the reason was because, well, it's an antioxidant, glutathione, correct? So the antioxidant properties within that, and then glycine being, I think, like the bigger portion of it. But I was told for hair growth, it could actually be really beneficial. So that's why I started taking it. And today I just happened across your video all about it. And I was like, oh, how funny, how ironic, because I literally just got my bottle of glycine yesterday. So
Yeah. And now you know you wasted your money, because now you know what foods have glycine in them. Just eat your meat, and you're going to get all the glycine you could ever want and hope for and pray for and drink for. Just eat your meat.
But I thought
it's full
that
of glycine.
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that most of the glycine is in the marrow and the other kind of tissues, as opposed to the red or the muscle meat. So that's too. I am not a grizzle type bone texture person, so that's hard for me.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm watching the comments right now, Dr. Berry, and it's funny. Keto is for a particular type of person. It's not necessarily for everyone. However, there's been amazing strides with a lot of people, and I'm reading a lot of people saying it makes you fat, or red meat is better in moderation, and it's loaded with cholesterol. Just kind of nodding to the lies your doctor told you. Tell us one of those lies, like cholesterol lie. There's a very common misconception that eating high cholesterol foods will make your cholesterol go up in your blood. There's another misconception that if your cholesterol in your blood on your lab test is not really, really low, then you're at high risk of having a heart attack. And it just so happens that I have YouTube videos about those topics that will explain not only why that myth is not true, but also I've got links to the research down in the show notes. It's not like, oh, this is my opinion. If you don't like it, you can jump off a cliff. It's like, no, this is my opinion. And it's based on the research down below that you can read yourself.
Yeah, so even the American Heart Association has really stopped recommending that people eat very low cholesterol diets. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which is put out by the federal government, they now officially say in those guidelines that cholesterol is not a nutrient of concern. You don't have to limit your cholesterol. Used to, they said you need to not eat any more than 300 milligrams a day. Now they say you can eat as much as you want. We can't find any research that shows that eating cholesterol is bad for you. Same goes for saturated fat. We were taught, all of us were taught, oh, avoid saturated fat, and that's found predominantly in animal foods. So a lot of us thought, well, I guess I don't need to eat red meat then. Well, it turns out that all of that research was biased. It was based on a hypothesis that they could never accumulate enough evidence for it to make it to the upgrade of being a theory. It's still just a hypothesis that eating saturated fat is bad for you because nobody can prove that it's bad. Even though there's lots of gurus out there on YouTube and other places that'll say red meat will kill you. It's like smoking a pack of cigarettes every egg you eat. All that stuff is faddish foolishness.
It's so crazy
That's what it
because
is.
when I was younger, growing up in my house, my father's father, so my grandfather, died of a heart attack. And I think it really impacted my dad and scared him as a kid. And his older brother had 2 open heart surgeries. And so it was always heart conversation. And as a child, his thing for us was low fat. We had non-fat milks, and we had, low sugar this. And essentially we were eating chemicals and foods that weren't as clean or as good. But my father was scared into this diet and thinking he had to run every day and be extremely lean, no red meats. And a huge part of the population believed that and fell into it. And it's funny because it's since shifted for my father, and being somebody now, like he had his first In-N-Out burger the other day. And he hasn't had red meat in years, but he was like, this was so fantastic. But I think it's so interesting how people still get stuck in that misinformation bubble and fear fat. There is a huge, I think, fear culture around it where people can't believe that butter could actually be beneficial for you, or a beautiful steak could be better for you than eating, a lean piece of chicken breast. And with no skin,
Yep.
exactly.
With no skin.
And people just don't understand, I think, what real nutrition is. So
that's right. And that's why I try to be very blunt on my YouTube videos. If you don't think that butter is a health food, and I don't mean like, well, it's okay to have a little butter. I'm telling you, butter is a health food. It is good for you. Red meat is a health food. Egg yolks are a health food. If you're going to throw away any part of the egg, throw away the shell and the white, keep the yolk, because that's where all the vitamins and minerals are. But we believed this lie for so long. I call it the echo of the lie, because like I said earlier, the federal government has stopped warning people about cholesterol. They've stopped warning people about saturated fat, but your dad didn't get the memo until 20 years later, because what should have happened is the American Heart Association should have had to get their ass on stage and hold a press conference and say, okay, guys, we know for the last 20 years we've been saying all this stuff about red meat and saturated fat and eggs. We were wrong about all that. So go back to enjoying your red meat and eggs. Eat your butter. Throw the margarine in the garbage because it's trash. Eat butter. And then we would all got the memo at the same time. Don't you think that would have been more ethical than them just kind of quietly stepping away like, no, did we say that? That's not in the guidelines. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was a mass experiment.
100%. That's it.
It was a mass experiment that went
And
horribly
that's what a lot of
wrong. And
people look at.
I think I was watching Jason Fung, or maybe you, or, I'm all up in the community. But, kind of where they say normal experiments like this, the outcomes will stop the experiment. And the outcome is a pandemic of obesity running rampant within our adult and younger communities, but the conversation and the experiment hasn't stopped, and it's getting worse with the high fructose corn syrup and definitely all of these fake foods that are so palatable and beautifully programmed in our minds, rather than the bok choy or the collard greens that sit up in the fresh station. And it's like, well, I don't know how to cook it, and it's the same way. We've gotten so we've gotten so programmed, which leads me to my next question for you. Your wife has an amazing channel as well. I watch a couple of her videos. She is a ketovore, and she shows how she eats. Please, can you tell the viewers about her channel really fast? Because I think you guys make an awesome couple. You tell the doctor part of it, and she goes and shows the food part of it.
Now, wait a minute. I thought we were here to talk about me. Now, wait a minute. I thought we were
I'm
here
here
to
with
talk
my
about
wife.
me.
I'm just saying.
It's a wife positive space.
So my wife, Nisha, definitely my better half, she has a YouTube channel, and her handle is Nisha Loves It. And if you just search for Nisha Loves It, you'll find her on all social media. And she's very, very beautiful, very sexy, very hot, very, very intelligent. Like, if it weren't for me, her, I'd probably be in prison. But she's pretty freaking awesome. Come say hi, Nisha. They're talking about you.
Hi,
Yeah.
Nisha.
Oh, you
Hi,
can't?
sexy,
Okay.
hot Nisha.
So she's not so fashionable right now.
Nisha,
She's like,
because
no,
of
I'm
you,
not ready
I
for
started
camera.
having egg
So,
white
but
wraps,
yeah.
so thank you.
There you go.
That's
The
where that
eggs
came
for the
from.
win. But I try to talk about the science and the medicine and the nutrition. And then she shows this is what we eat in a day. And so if anybody's like, I wonder what that berry doctor eats, it's on Nisha Loves It. Every day she records some kind of video of some recipe we made. Or if I just whip out the ground beef and eat 2.5 pounds of it with a lot of salt, she shows that too, because that's also delicious and it's a health
love
food.
it. I love it.
I think that's great. You guys are an awesome pairing. That's so cool.
You can also catch them on lives every Monday. They go live on their channel as well. I mean, on your channel as well, and you can ask them all kinds of questions. We
Right.
actually asked our viewers on Instagram, before we let you go, a quick couple of questions. Now, you want to do the disclaimer, babe?
Sure.
Well, let me get to them.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
This is so exciting. I don't know what y'all are talking about in the chat right now, but I'm getting my full life. So if you don't like it, you can get off. And if you do like it, stay on and follow everybody.
Okay. So, somebody asked, and I'm not sure, I mean, what you would think about this, but people who suffer with depression who do not feel like eating at all, do you have any recommendations to those people and how they can help themselves and what they should look for when it comes to eating?
Yeah, sometimes mental health can be very, very severe. It can be life-threatening. And so first and foremost, make sure you've got a mental health care provider that you trust. First and foremost, make sure you've got a support structure, either with the family you were born with or the family that you've adopted in the process of living your life. You need a good support structure. But then you have to realize that your brain, that's where all your emotions come from, both the good and the bad, right? Your brain is made of what you've eaten over the course of your life, right? And so if you have basically lived on junk food, lived on processed stuff, lived on fake food, is there any wonder that you suffer from depression, anxiety, right? Some of that's genetic. There's no doubt about that. But so many thousands of people have reached out to me on my YouTube channel and said, dude, I had severe depression. I was on 3 different medications. I've been inpatient several times. And I went keto because I heard you talk about this weight loss hack. I could lose a bunch of weight. That's why I did it. But I just wanted to message you and tell you I'm now on all my meds. My depression is completely in remission. I feel amazing. My therapist doesn't even know what to do with me because now I'm giving her therapy basically because I feel so much better and I'm so full of energy. We hear this with anxiety. We hear it with OCD. We hear it with even ADHD, and autism gets better when you eat a diet that's full of healthy fat and protein and very low in unhealthy carbohydrates. All of these things that we just thought were 100% genetic, turns out they're very, very diet related in many, many cases.
That's amazing. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Okay, and then we have a few similar questions. People are asking about supplementation. And specifically, I got a few for liver and a few for kidney health, but people are asking what you recommend they look for in supplements to support the liver and the kidney. They find it to be quite confusing and overwhelming in terms of information.
That's a great question. And the reason it feels so confusing is because gurus love to make things confusing. Because when it's confusing, then they can sell you a bottle of supplements that happens to be made by their company, or they can sell you a program, or they can sell you a Zoom class or whatever. But guess what? Think about all the animals that live out in the wild. Right now, we're in the comfort of our home. They're out in the woods. All the squirrels and rabbits and coyotes, none of those guys have vitamin deficiencies. But they don't take any supplements. But yet they're able to live their life and reproduce, and it's been going on for millions of years. How come they don't need Dr. So-and-so's liver support capsules? How are they able to get by without those pills? The reason is because they eat a species-specific diet. And when it comes to humans, I've started calling a ketogenic diet that's full of fatty meat, egg yolks, and maybe liver once or twice a week. That is a proper human diet. And when you eat that kind of diet, you almost don't have to worry about supplements whatsoever, especially kidney cleanses and kidney support and liver cleanses and liver support. If anybody says, "Oh, you need to buy this liver cleanse," yeah, you can hit unfollow right there, because they don't know what they're talking about, or they're trying to sell you something you don't really need.
It's so true. Only do you hear about animals having diabetes and all of these issues until you start putting them in captivity with us and us feeding them all kinds of foods and giving them table foods. Before then, the animals were just fine.
We've made things so overcomplicated, and so it's just nuts. But then it's really true, and I've experienced this myself, sifting through all of the information, and everyone seems to have an opinion. It's crazy. I mean, I remember when Raven first started her keto journey, we were watching all of these YouTube videos, and everyone's saying essentially beef, butter, eggs, bacon, right? But then we go to this other section, because I was like, you have to watch this girl, because I've been watching this girl from years ago who was a vegan who ate like 35 bananas, 16 mangoes, and 18 kiwis for breakfast. I kid you not. That's like she would eat, and she was like, if you eat meat, you're terrible. And so people are so on opposite sides, and there's so much conflicting information. And that actually leads me to one of my next questions, which is a bit of a hot button topic these days, and feel free to answer or not answer, obviously, but I got asked a few times.
I ain't scared.
When it comes to this pandemic that we've been going through, do you have an opinion on natural immunity versus injection immunity?
Let's not talk about the virus that's so popular right now. Let's talk about just immunity in general. It is absolutely a proven medical and scientific fact that the healthier you are, the easier it is for your body to fight off an infection. Whether it's a viral infection, a bacterial infection, or a fungal infection, you're less likely to even catch an infection if you're healthy. So when Raven was pre-diabetic and maybe a little fluffier, she was at much higher risk of catching a virus or a bacteria or a fungus, right? And she was also at much greater risk of having a bad outcome from any virus, any bacteria, any fungal infection. She was more likely to wind up in the hospital or even wind up in the intensive care unit. That's one of the hundreds of reasons why we care about reversing prediabetes and type 2 diabetes so freaking much, is because first of all, I don't want Raven to get sick, because I like her.
Thank you. And I think you're pretty handsome yourself, Dr. Berry. Oh my God, you too? Calm down.
If she does get sick, I want her to get better quickly. I want her to beat that infection and get over it. But there's just copious amounts of research, and I've got a video about your immune strength, and I've got the research in the show notes. So if anybody's saying this is bullcrap, go watch my video and read the research. Eating one serving of sugar slows down a specific part of white blood cell in your body that's called a macrophage. It basically retards its function for up to 4 hours. It literally is crippled for 4 hours and can't do the jobs that it has to do if your immune system's going to function properly. And so you can just imagine if somebody's having a high-carb breakfast, then a high-carb snack, then lunch, then snack, then a high-carb dinner, then a bedtime snack. Their macrophages are like, dude, what do you want me to do? I'm just going to go jump off the cliff because I can't help you because you're literally putting handcuffs on me. I am your immune system, but but I can't even do my job because you're keeping me jacked up on sugar all day.
Let me say this though, because one of the things that I was having a problem with when I first started is just deprogramming what a carb is, right? So a carb is, yes, it's bread, yes, it's pasta, but it's also your grains, it's also your sugars, it's also in fruit, exactly. Vegetables, but the vegetables have fiber, so that gets cut in half. You're pretty good with that. But when it comes to your tubers and anything other than animal or vegetable, you pretty much shouldn't have it, especially now that it's been so chemically changed. Thanks, babes. And that's the problem because. For instance, like I was watching one video the other day and somebody gave me some really cool advice and I liked it. And it said, listen, fruit, yes, it has sugar in it. Yes, it has fructose and glucose and all that kind of stuff. But the difference is that we have we have fruit all year round. We don't go by seasons. So our bodies just continuously take in. If we actually ate according to the season, then we wouldn't have such an issue with what's going on with our body. We are gluttonous people, and it's ridiculous. It's really sad.
Well, it's been such a huge change, and something, Dr. Berry, I want to ask you is, I think for people who, let's say, are wanting to start their health journey, this can feel really overwhelming. And I know from even some of the people that we've talked with, they go, oh my God, I could never fast, or they hear that they'd have to, reduce fruits or the food or alcohol or the things that they love. And let's not get it twisted. We are a house, and I say we, of food addicts, and culturally, sitting around a dinner table and eating and drinking is part of how we learn to socialize. So how would you recommend people ease their way into this lifestyle shift in a more digestible way to start?
Sure. So the first thing you're going to do, step one, eliminate anything that has added sugar. Now, almost no one's going to disagree with that step. They're like, yeah, no, sugar, too much sugar is bad for you. So any processed anything that has added sugar or anything that's not processed that they add sugar to, and there are hundreds of things that you're like, no, it's ketchup. There's not sugar in that. Read the label. You're thinking, oh, wait a minute, this is roast beef casserole. That's not going to happen. Read the label. It's got sugar in it. You eliminate all added sugar. That's step one. Step two is you eliminate all the grains. Grains are a great starvation food. If you're starving, you need to eat grains because they'll keep you from starving. But they are in no way an optimization food. If what you're trying to do is reverse chronic disease, if what you're trying to do is realize your best health, grains don't play a part in that. I'm sorry. And I know that always offends people. They're like, well, what about whole grain? I'm like, is it a grain? Then yeah, you need to eliminate it. Grains are made up of starches, which are long chains of sugars that are holding hands. You have an enzyme in your mouth called amylase. As soon as you start to chew that bread, it breaks down into sugar before you even swallow it. Yes, bread is nothing but pure sugar. Step three is to eliminate all the vegetable seed oils like canola oil, soybean oil, peanut oil, sunflower, safflower, sesame oil. I know your doctor said it was good for you. Your doctor is wrong. When you eliminate those three things, 80% of the population is going to start to lose weight and get healthier right at that point. Some people have to go the extra step of eliminating all fruits, all sugars, even natural sugars, especially fruit juice. If any healthcare provider tells you drinking fruit juice is good for you, they fell and hit their head. That is not true at all, okay? Maybe eating fruit is not that bad for some of us, but let me just give you a challenge, Raven, if you want to do this, because Miranda, I'm pretty sure that the person you were talking to, you watched the video, they were eating 25 bananas a day and mangoes and papayas, probably a vegetarian. Why don't we do an experiment with Raven? Let's put a continuous glucose monitor on her. And for the next 30 days, let's feed her a fruitarian diet and let's watch what her blood sugar does. Let's watch how quickly.
Okay, look, I'm
sorry. Dr. Berry, we can't derail
No,
progress.
we're not really going to do this because I love you and value you. I don't want to kill you. But what would happen to Raven if she started eating a fruitarian diet? Her prediabetes would immediately start to come back. And it's at that point that you realize, yeah, okay, maybe fruit's natural and God made it and it grows on trees. But Raven doesn't need to eat very much fruit at all, or her A1C will start to creep right back up. And then step 4 is you've got to get okay with animal products. I don't believe you can eat a proper human diet without at least egg yolks, without at least some kind of red meat in your diet, without butter, without cheese. Now, for you vegans watching that I'm pissing off right now, and I know you're there, it's okay. I love you. I respect you. Start eating oysters and shellfish, okay? They do not have a nervous system. They do not feel pain. They are not sentient. They are not conscious. And they are a superfood. You know how you thought kale and blueberries were a superfood? Well, that's bullshit. Compare it to the nutrition in an oyster, okay? Put them side by side and look at the vitamins and minerals in each. Start eating shellfish. Please, I beg of you, for the sake of your brain and your health and your skin. I don't want you to look older than you are. I want you to look younger than you are. That's the one animal product that the oysters do not give a damn what happens to their babies. They don't care. They don't nurse them. They don't have any of those feelings that I know that you're trying to avoid. I don't think it's murder to eat a clam or an oyster.
Absolutely. That's really great advice, Dr. Berry. Thank you so much.
It is. And, you know, again, reading the people in the chats, here's the deal, right? So, like Dr. Berry said, I got a touch of sugar in my system. And if we continually eat the foods that are promoted to our face using red and yellow and fun characters and easy cook meals and things like that, you are going to get addicted. Sugar is more addicting than any man-made chemical drug that you can take.
It is a drug.
It is a drug.
Totally a drug.
And so when you're saying, you know, my goodness, I couldn't do this, or what about the diet sugars? It's just another way of making you think that you're healthy when you're really not. Yeah. It's all about the foods that you would find out in the wild and not in a factory. If you eat something that comes from a factory, it is not good for you. But I will say this. Just like the girl who eats 17 bananas, that works for her, okay? That works for her. Enjoy it for now. This works for me. This works for Dr. Berry. This doesn't work for babes. You know what I mean? What works for babes works for babes. And it's like, if you are seeing any skin issues, if you are having brain fog, if you are having the hangry moment, if you get the itis after you eat, you need to stop eating sugar. You need to stop gorging on these foods. I just want to touch a little bit on fasting because I love it.
And let me just say this.
Yes,
though.
ma'am.
In terms of my diet, a lot of people know I do love sweet potatoes. And that is probably, though, the only carb in that fashion in my diet. I don't eat pastas. I don't eat grains. Everything else is meat, vegetable, nuts. I love peanut butter. And you can't take it away from me. But ultimately, I don't drink soda. I don't drink diet soda. I think I had an apple like once.
I haven't had an apple in a year, baby.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy. So my diet is, with the exception of my sweet potato, pretty close to, it's a low carb, keto-esque, style of eating, which I think works really well for me. I feel good in that.
And you look good in it.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome. Let's skip to fasting really fast before you guys leave. So, fasting. Here's the deal. There's a couple kinds of fasting, right? There is intermittent fasting. Which is the same as intermittent fasting, but time-restricted eating. There's also extended fasts. Dr. Berry, your 1, 2, 3 of fasting real quick.
If you eat enough fat and protein in your diet, both of those macronutrients are very satiating, which means they make you feel full, and they keep you feeling full for a long time. Whereas carbohydrates, we've all been to the Chinese restaurant and ate so much we thought we were going to pop. Then two hours later, what are you? You're hungry. Right. That's because you burn up all the carbs and now you're hungry again. So you spiked your insulin. So when you're eating plenty of fat and protein, it becomes very easy to fast, especially an intermittent fast, which means you go for 14 or 16 or 18 hours every day without eating anything. And right now you may be thinking, that doesn't sound like fun. And if you're eating a high-carb diet, it ain't fun at all because you're starving. But when you convert to a ketogenic way of eating and you're getting plenty of fat and protein, it becomes effortless to fast for 16, 18 hours because you literally do it by accident. Have you done that, Raven? You look up and it's like 2 p.m. You're like, oh, crap, I didn't even eat yet. Yeah. And you don't even, it's not like you're having to sit there and watch your watch like, I'm going to die. you're enjoying your life because you got all this energy and your brain's so clear. You're out having fun and you forget. You skip a meal accidentally. That's intermittent fasting. And then some people, if they're morbidly obese or their A1C is 14 or 15, they may want to do longer fasting for 48 hours, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, sometimes even days. Up to 5 day long fasts are completely not dangerous at all unless you're taking prescription medication. Then you got to talk to your doctor because it may affect some things. But if you're not taking prescription medication, you're not going to die if you don't eat for 5 days. You're going to drink plenty of water. You're going to make sure you're getting your salt and electrolytes, and you're going to go find something to do. And I promise you,
I know
won't
that
die.
I won't die because 4 days ago I just did a 5-day fast.
Raven didn't die.
I didn't die. And I'm actually working really close with Megan Ramos right now on a protocol that's helping me really tone down and get all of my metabolic situations under control. It's a 45, 42, 36, 19. And this is one of the harder ones, but I feel like you said, I enjoy the fact that I have my chicken thigh, a nice creamy butter sauce, some veggies or a hot pot, my keto, not all the time, but sometimes my keto ice cream, which is really good, but there's no sugar in it. And I go for my 45 and I'm like, let's do it. Everyone, I want you guys to go to Dr. Ken Berry's YouTube, check him out.
We linked it all down below, all his info.
All his info. Thank you so much for getting on this call with us, and this was amazing.
This was fantastic. You're so great, Dr. Berry, and I am so excited for people to watch Reversed. I think one more thing I really want to say is when you talk about, food being seasonal or things being animalistic, I think people go, that does not sound appealing. And when you talk about vegetables and things like that, people are like, no, I love a drive-through. That's what really hits the spot.
Dirty
Watching
keto.
Maria make those burgers on an episode of Reversed, I think when you take beautiful meat and you put it on a grill and you put a piece of cheese on it and you have a great lettuce and a beautiful tomato and you have
onion.
onion and your keto appropriate sauces, you're eating a delicious meal. I really want people to understand that. And as you were saying, it's so much more satiating than drinking a fruit smoothie or having that Chinese food where you feel lethargic and icky after. And then 2 hours later, you're like, why am I going back to the leftovers to eat more of the chow mein that I just ate, whatever. So I really think that eating whole, nutritious food can be exciting and fun and flavorful and satiating. And I hope through our channel and your channel, people feel more inspired and more educated to take it upon themselves to do that and just feel better. So you're fantastic and such a wealth of information. I love your YouTube channel. Your wife is awesome.
Any last words?
You look great.
He does, right? So cute.
Eat real food and lift heavy weights. Eat real food and lift heavy weights, and life will reward you. I promise.
Thank you so much, Dr. Berry.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks so much.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Yes.